Hello, welcome to Bible Reading with Study Guide. We're in Joshua chapter 9. And it came to pass when all the kings who were on this side of the Jordan, in the hills and in the lowland, and all the coasts of the great sea toward Lebanon, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite heard about it, that they gathered together to fight with Joshua and Israel with one accord. But when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they worked craftily and went and pretended to be ambassadors. And they took old sacks on their donkeys, old wineskins torn and mended, old and patched sandals on their feet, and old garments on themselves. And all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. And they went to Joshua to the camp at Gilgal, and said to him and to the men of Israel, We have come from a far country, now therefore make a covenant with us. Then the men of Israel said to the Hivites, Perhaps you dwell among us, so how can we make a covenant with you? But they said to Joshua, We are your servants. And Joshua said to them, Who are you, and where do you come from? So they said to him, From a very far country your servants have come, because of the name of the Lord your God. For we have heard of his fame and all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon the king of Heshbon, and Og the king of Bashan, who was at Ashtaroth. Therefore our elders and all the inhabitants of our country spoke to us, saying, Take provisions with you for the journey, and go and meet them, and say to them, We are your servants, now therefore make a covenant with us. This bread of ours we took hot for our provision from our houses on the day we departed to come to you, but now look, it is dry and moldy. And these wineskins which we filled were new, and see, they are torn. And these our garments and our sandals have become old because of the very long journey. And the men of Israel took some of their provisions, but they did not ask counsel of the Lord. So Joshua made peace with them, and made a covenant with them to let them live. And the ruler of the congregation swore to them. And it happened at the end of 3 days, after they had made a covenant with them, that they heard that they were their neighbors, who dwelt near them. Then the children of Israel journeyed and came to their cities on the 3rd day. Now their cities were Gibeon, Chephirah, Beeroth, and Kirjath-jearim. But the children of Israel did not attack them, because the rulers of the congregation had sworn to them by the Lord God of Israel. All the congregation complained against the rulers. Then all the rulers said to all the congregation, We have sworn to them by the Lord God of Israel, now therefore we may not touch them. This we will do to them, we will let them live, lest wrath be upon us because of the oath which we swore to them. And the rulers said to them, Let them live, but let them be woodcutters and water carriers for all the congregation, as the rulers had promised them. Then Joshua called for them, and he spoke to them, saying, Why have you deceived us, saying, We are far from you, we are very far from you, when you dwell near us? Now therefore you are cursed, and none of you shall be freed from being slaves, woodcutters and water carriers for the house of my God. So they answered Joshua and said, Because your servants were clearly told that the Lord your God commanded his servant Moses to give you all the land, and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land from before you, therefore we were very much afraid for our lives because of you, and have done the same. Now here we are, in your hands. Do with us as it seems good and right to do to us. So he did to them and delivered them out of the hand of the children of Israel, so that they did not kill them. And that day Joshua made them woodcutters and water carriers for the congregation and for the altar of the Lord in the place which he would choose, even to this day. All right, there's some questions. Quite a few for chapter 9. Let's see what they are. How did the Gibeonites deceive Joshua? They pretended to be from far away, not in the land they were conquering. And why were Joshua and the leaders deceived? How were they deceived? Verse 14. They did not ask counsel of the Lord. It may have been different if they had. Why did the Gibeonites deceive Joshua and their leaders? They were afraid, right? Because they had heard the mighty things their God had done for them. Were they allowed to live? Yes. And what happened to them? They became their slaves. Okay. Joshua 10. Now it came to pass when Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard how Joshua had taken Ai and had utterly destroyed it, as he had done to Jericho and its kings. So he had done to Ai and its kings, how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them, that they feared greatly, because Gibeon was a great city, like one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all its men were mighty. Therefore Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, sent to Hoham, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, Japhia, king of Lachish, and Deber, king of Eglon, saying, Come up to me and help me, that we may attack Gibeon, for it has made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel. Therefore the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon, gathered together and went up, they and all their armies, and camped before Gibeon, and made war against it. And the men of Gibeon sent to Joshua at the camp of Gilgal, saying, Do not forsake your servants. Come up to us quickly, save us, help us, for all the kings of the Amorites who dwell in the mountains have gathered together against us. So Joshua ascended from Gilgal, he and all the people of war with him, and all the mighty men of valor. And the Lord said to Joshua, Do not fear them, for I have delivered them into your hand. Not a man of them shall stand before you. Joshua therefore came upon them suddenly, having marched all night from Gilgal. So the Lord routed them before Israel, killed them with a great slaughter at Gibeon, chased them along the road that goes to Beth-horon, and struck them down as far as Azekah and Makkedah. And it happened as they fled before Israel and were on the descent of Beth-horon, that the Lord cast down large hailstones from heaven on them as far as Azekah. And they died. There were more who died from the hailstones than the children of Israel killed with the sword. Then Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, till the people had revenge upon their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and did not hasten to go down for about a whole day. And there has been no day like that, before it or after it, that the Lord heeded the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. Then Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to the camp at Gilgal. Wow, that would be a strange thing to happen if the sun just stopped. Everything just stopped. The earth didn't rotate, it just stopped for almost a day. Those who were in the light had an extra day of whole light. Those in the dark had an extra 24 hours of dark. That would have been a frightening thing if you did not know what was going on. But these 5 kings had fled and hidden themselves in a cave at Makkedah. And it was told Joshua, saying, The 5 kings have been found hidden in the cave at Makkedah. So Joshua said, Roll large stones against the mouth of the cave, and set men by it to guard them. and do not stay there yourselves, but pursue your enemies and attack their rear guard. Do not allow them to enter their cities, for the Lord your God has delivered them into your hand." Then it happened, while Joshua and the children of Israel made an end of slaying them with a very great slaughter, till they had finished, that those who escaped entered fortified cities. And all the people returned to the camp, and to Joshua at Makkedah in peace. No one moved his tongue against any of the children of Israel. Then Joshua said, "Open the mouth of the cave and bring out those 5 kings to me from the cave." And they did so, and brought out those 5 kings to him from the cave: the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon. So it was, when they brought out those kings to Joshua, that Joshua called for all the men of Israel, and said to the captains of the men of war who went with him, "Come near, put your feet on the necks of these kings." And they drew near and put their feet on their necks. Then Joshua said to them, "Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed. Be strong and of good courage, for thus the Lord will do to all your enemies against whom you fight." And afterwards Joshua struck them and killed them and hanged them on 5 trees. And they were hanging on the trees until evening. So it was at the time of the going down of the sun that Joshua commanded, and they took them down from the trees, cast them into the cave where they had been hiding, and laid large stones against the cave's mouth, which remained until this day. Wow. On that day Joshua took Makkedah and struck it and its king with the edge of the sword. He utterly destroyed them. All the people who were in it, he let none remain. So he also did to the king of Makkedah as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua passed from Makkedah, and all Israel with him, to Libnah, and they fought against Libnah. And the Lord also delivered it and its king into the hand of Israel. He struck it and all the people who were in it with the edge of the sword. He let none remain, but did to its king as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua passed from Libnah, and all of Israel with him, to Lachish, and they encamped against it and fought against it. And the Lord delivered Lachish into the hand of Israel, who took it on the 2nd day and struck it and all the people who were in it with the edge of the sword, according to all that he had done in Libnah. Then Horam the king of Gezer came up to help Lachish, and Joshua struck him and his people until he left none remaining. From Lachish Joshua passed to Eglon, and all Israel with him, and they encamped against it and fought against it. They took it on that day and struck it with the edge of the sword. All the people who were in it he utterly destroyed that day, according to all that he had done to Lachish. So Joshua went up from Eglon, and all Israel with him, to Hebron, and they fought against it. And they took it and struck it with a sword, its king, all its cities, and all of the people who were in it. He left none remaining, according to all that he had done to Eglon, but utterly destroyed it and all the people who were in it. Then Joshua returned and all Israel with him to Debir, and they fought against it, and he took it and its king and all its cities. They struck them with the edge of the sword and utterly destroyed all the people who were in it. He left none remaining, as he had done to Hebron, so he did to Debir and its kings, as he had done also to Libnah and its king. So Joshua conquered all the land, the mountain country, and the south and the lowland, and the wilderness slopes, and all their kings. He left none remaining, but utterly destroyed all that breathed, as the Lord God of Israel had commanded. And Joshua conquered them from Kadesh Barnea as far as Gaza, and all the country of Goshen, even as far as Gibeon. And all these kings in their land Joshua took at one time, because the Lord God of Israel fought for Israel. Then Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to the camp at Gilgal. Looks like there's a couple questions for chapter 10 we just read. What killed more of their enemies when they were at... It's over in verse 10 and 11. looks like the hailstones killed more than the sword killed. So God was in charge of that. About how long did the sun stand still? In verse 13. It's almost a day. It wasn't quite a whole day, was it? It didn't say it was a whole day. On down in the book of Jasher, it talks about did not hasten to go down for about a whole day. Okay. Part of this reading today, there's going to be a lot of names of places I probably will not pronounce correctly, but I'll do my best. Joshua chapter 11. And it came to pass, when Jabin, king of Hazor, heard these things, that he sent to Jobab, king of Madon, to the king of Shimron, to the king of Akshaf, and to the kings who were from the north, in the mountains, in the plain south of Chinneroth, in the lowland, and in the heights of Dor on the west, to the Canaanites in the east, and in the west, the Amorite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Jebusite in the mountains, and the Hivite below Hermon, and the land of Mizpah. So they went out, they and all their armies with them, as many people as the sand that is on the seashore, in multitude, with very many horses and chariots. And when all these kings had met together, they came and camped together at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. But the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid because of them, for tomorrow about this time I will deliver all of them slain before Israel. You shall hamstring their horses and burn their chariots with fire. So Joshua and all the people of war with him came against them suddenly by the waters of Merom, and they attacked them. And the Lord delivered them into the hand of Israel, who defeated them and chased them to greater Sidon, to the brook Mizrafoth, and the valley of Mizpah eastward. They attacked them until they left none of them remaining. So Joshua did to them as the Lord had told him. He hamstrung their horses and burned their chariots with fire. Joshua turned back at that time and took Hazor and struck its king with the sword. For Hazor was formerly the head of all those kingdoms. And they struck all the people who were in it with the edge of the sword, utterly destroying them all. And there was none left breathing. Then he burned Hazor with fire. So all the cities of the kings and all their kings Joshua took and struck with the edge of the sword. He utterly destroyed them, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded. But as for the cities that stood on the mounds, Israel burned none of these except Hazor only, which Joshua burned. And all the spoil of these cities and the livestock the children of Israel took as booty for themselves. But they struck every man with the edge of the sword until they had destroyed them, and they left none breathing. And as the Lord commanded Moses, his servant, so Moses commanded Joshua, and so Joshua did. He left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded Moses. Thus Joshua took all this land, the mountain country, all the south, all the land of Goshen, the lowland, and the Jordan plain, the mountains of Israel and its lowlands, from Mount Halak and the ascent to Seir, even as far as Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon, below Mount Hermon. He captured all their kings and struck them down and killed them. Joshua made war a long time with all those kings. There was not a city that made peace with the children of Israel except the Hivites, the inhabitants of Gibeon. All the others they took in battle, for it was of the Lord to harden their hearts, and they should come against Israel in battle, that he might utterly destroy them, that they might receive no mercy, but that he might destroy them as the Lord had commanded Moses. At that time Joshua came and cut off the Anakim from the mountains. Remember, we've heard of them before. Anakim. cut them off from the mountains of Hebron, from Debir, from Anab, from the mountains of Judah, and from all the mountains of Israel. Joshua utterly destroyed them with their cities. None of the Anakim were left in the land of the children of Israel. They remained only in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod. So Joshua took the whole land according to all the Lord had said to Moses. And Joshua gave it as an inheritance to Israel according to their division by their tribes. Then the land rested from war. Joshua 12. I wonder how much time that all took. Probably quite a bit. These are the kings of the land whom the children of Israel defeated, and whose land they possessed on the other side of the Jordan, toward the rising of the sun, from the river Arnon to Mount Hermon, and all the eastern Jordan plain. Bunch of names here, okay? One king was Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon and ruled half of Gilead, from Aroer, which is on the bank of the river Arnon, from the middle of that river even as far as the river Jabbok, which is the border of the Ammonites, and the eastern Jordan plain, from the sea of Chinnereth as far as the sea of Arabah, the salt sea, the road to Beth Jesimoth, and southward below the slopes of Pisgah. The other king was Og, king of Bashan, and his territory, who was of the remnant of the giants, who dwelt in Ashtaroth and at Edrei, and reigned over Mount Hermon, over Salcah, over Bashan, over all Bashan, as far as the border of the Geshurites and the Maccathites, and over half of Gilead to the border of Sihon, king of Heshbon. These Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the children of Israel had conquered, and Moses, the servant of the Lord, had given it as possession to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manesseh. And these are the kings of the country which Joshua and the children of Israel conquered on this side of the Jordan, on the west, from Baal-Gad and the valley of Lebanon as far as Mount Halak, and the ascent to Seir, which Joshua gave to the tribes of Israel as a possession according to their divisions, in the mountain country and in the lowlands, in the Jordan plain, in the slopes, and in the wilderness, and in the south, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The king of Jericho won. The king of Ai, which is beside Bethel, won. The king of Jerusalem won. The king of Hebron won. The king of Jarmuth won. The king of Lachish won. The king of Eglon won. The king of Gezer won. The king of Debir won. The king of Geder won. The king of Hormah won. The king of Adullam, I lost my place here. The king of Geder won. The king of Hormah won. The king of Arad won. The king of Libnah won. The king of Adullam won. The king of Makkedah won. The king of Bethel won. The king of Tappuah won. The king of Hephner won. The king of Aphek won. The king of Lasharon won. The king of Madon won. The king of Hazor won. The king of Shimron, Meron won. The king of Ashaf won. The king of Tanach won. The king of Megiddo won. The king of Kadesh won. The king of Jokneam in Carmel won. The king of Dor in the heights of Dor won. The king of the people of Gilgal won. The king of Tirzah won. All the kings, 31. Wow, I don't know if I said those words all right, their names, but anyway. 31 kings they conquered and cleared out the land so they could possess it. Okay, there's more names coming here. Joshua chapter 13. Now Joshua was old and advanced in years, And the Lord said to him, You are old, advanced in years, and there remains very much land yet to be possessed. This is the land that yet remains, all the territory of the Philistines, and all that of the Geshurites, from Sihor, which is east of Egypt, as far as the border of Ekron northward, which is counted as Canaanite, the 5 lords of the Philistines, the Gazites, the Ashdodites, Ashkelonites, the Gittites, and the Ekronites, also the Avites from the south, all the land of the Canaanites and Merah that belonged to the Sidons, as far as Aphek, to the border of the Amorites, the land of the Gibeonites, and all Lebanon, toward the sunrise from Baal-Gad, below Mount Hermon, as far as the entrance to Hamath, all the inheritance of the mountains from Lebanon, as far as the brook Misrephoth, and all of the Sidonians, them I will drive out before the children of Israel, only divided by lot to Israel as an inheritance, as I have commanded you. Now therefore divide this land as inheritance to the 9 tribes and half-tribe of Manasseh. All right. With the other half-tribe, the Reubenites and the Gadites received their inheritance, which Moses had given them beyond the Jordan eastward, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had given them. From Aurora, which is on the bank of the river Arnon, and the town that is in the midst of the ravine, and all the plain of Medeba, as far as Dibon, all the cities of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, as far as the border of the children of Ammon, Gilead, and the borders of the Geshurites and the Maacathites, all Mount Hermon, and all Bashan, as far as Salcah, all the kingdom of Og and Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth, and Edrei, who remained of the remnant of the giants, for Moses had defeated and cast them out. Nevertheless, the children of Israel did not drive out the Geshurites or the Maacathites, but the Geshurites and the Maacathites dwell among Israelites until this day. Oh, good. Only to the tribe of Levi he had given no inheritance. The sacrifices of the Lord of Israel, made by fire, are their inheritance, as he said to them. And Moses had given to the tribe of the children of Reuben inheritance according to their families. Their territory was Aurora, which is on the bank of the river Arnon, and the city that is in the midst of the ravine, and all the plain of Medeba, Heshbon, and all the cities that are in the plain, Dibon, Bamoth, Baal, Beth Baal, Maon, Jahazah, Kedemoth, Mephath, Kirjathaim, Sibmah, Zareth Shahar, on the mountains of the valley, Beth Peor, the slopes of Pisgah, and Beth Jeshimoth, all the cities of the plain, and all the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, whom Moses had struck with the princes of Midian, Levi, Recham, Zur, Hur, and Reba, who were princes of Sihon, dwelling in the country. The children of Israel also killed with the sword Balaam the son of Beor, the soothsayer, among those who were killed by them. And the border of the children of Reuben was the bank of the Jordan. This was the inheritance of the children of Reuben, according to their families, their cities and their villages. Moses also had given an inheritance to the tribe of Gad, to the children of Gad, according to their families. Their territory was Jazer, and all of the cities of Gilead, and half the land of the Ammonites, as far as Aroer, which is before Reba, and from Heshbon to Ramoth Mizpah, and Betonim, and from Mahanaim to the border of Debir, and in the valley Beth Haram, Beth Nimrah, Succoth, and Zaphon, the rest of the kingdom of the Sihon king of Heshbon, with Jordan as its border, as far as the edge of the sea of Chinnereth, on the other side of the Jordan eastward. This is the inheritance of the children of Gad, according to their families, the cities and their villages. All right. Now the half-tribe of Manasseh. Moses also had given an inheritance to half the tribe of Manasseh. It was for the half-tribe of the children of Manasseh, according to their families. Their territory was from Mahanaim, all Bashan, all the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, and all the towns of Jair, which are in Bashan, 60 cities. Half of Gilead and Ashtaroth and Edrei, cities of the kingdom of Og and Bashan, were for the children of Machir, the son of Manessah, for half of the children of Machir according to their families. These are the areas which Moses had distributed as an inheritance in the plains of Moab, on the other side of Jordan, by Jericho eastward. But to the tribe of Levi, Moses had given no inheritance. The Lord God of Israel was their inheritance, as he had said to them. It's hard reading all those words you don't really know how to pronounce. Yeah. Okay. Joshua chapter 14. These are the areas which the children of Israel inherited in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest, Joshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel distributed as an inheritance to them. Their inheritance was by lot, as the Lord had commanded by the hand of Moses, for the 9 tribes and the half-tribe. For Moses had given the inheritance of 2 tribes and the half-tribe of the other, on the other side of the Jordan. But to the Levites he had given no inheritance among them. Keep saying that. For the children of Joseph were 2 tribes, Manessah and Ephraim, and they gave no part to the Levites in the land except cities to dwell in, with their common lands for their livestock and their property. As the Lord had commanded Moses, so the children of Israel did, and they divided the land. Then the children of Judah came to Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite said to him, "You know the word which the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, concerning you and me in Kadesh Barnea." Joshua and Caleb. Okay. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought back word to him as it was in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren who went up with me made the heart of the people melt, but I wholly followed the Lord my God. So Moses swore on that day, saying, "Surely the land where your foot has trodden shall be your inheritance and your children's forever, because you have wholly followed the Lord, God, my God. And now, behold, the Lord has kept me alive, as he has said, these 45 years, ever since the Lord spoke his word to Moses while Israel wandered in the wilderness. And now here I am, this day, 85 years old. As yet I am as strong this day as on the day that Moses sent me. Just as my strength was then, so now is my strength for war, both for going out and for coming in. Now therefore, give me this mountain, of which the Lord spoke in that day. For you heard in that day how the Anakim were there, and that the cities were great and fortified. It may be that the Lord will be with me, and I shall be able to drive them out, as the Lord said." And Joshua blessed him, and gave Hebron to Caleb the son of Jephunneh as an inheritance. Hebron therefore became the inheritance of Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite to this day, because he wholly followed the Lord God of Israel. And the name of Hebron formerly was Kirjath Arba. Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim. And the land had rest from war. Rest, finally. One question. Why did Caleb get Hebron for an inheritance? That was promised to him, wasn't it? Because he wholly followed the Lord. Joshua 15. So this was the lot of the tribe of the children of Judah, according to their families. The border of Edom at the wilderness of Zin southward was the extreme southern border, and their southern border began at the shore of the Salt Sea, from the bay that faces southward. Then it went out to the southern side of the ascent of Akrabim, passed along to Zin, and ascended on the south side to Kadesh Barnea, passed along to Hezron, went up to Adar, and went around to Karka. From there it passed toward Asmon and went out to the brook of Egypt, and the border ended at the sea. This shall be your southern border. And the east border was the Salt Sea, as far as the mouth of the Jordan. And the border of the northern quarter began at the bay of the sea at the mouth of the Jordan. The border went up to Beth Hoglah and passed north of Beth Arabah, and the border went up to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuben. Then the border went up toward Debir from the valley of Achor, and it turned northward toward Gilgal, which is the ascent of Adamim, which is on the south side of the valley. The border continued toward the waters of An-Shemesh and ended at En-Rogel, and the border went up by the valley of San Hinnom to the southern slope of the Jebusite city, which is Jerusalem. The border went up to the top of the mountain that lies before the valley of Hinnom westward, which is at the end of the valley of Rephaim northward. Then the border went around from the top of the hill to the fountain of the water of Nephtoah, and extended to the cities of Mount Ephraim. And the border went around to Beilah, which is Kirjath Jearim. Then the border turned westward from Beilah to Mount Seir, passed along the side of Mount Jearim on the north, which is Chesalon, went down to Beth Shemesh, and passed on to Timnah. And the border went out to the side of Ekron northward. Then the border went round to Shikron, and passed along Mount Beilah, and extended to Jabneel, and the border ended at the sea. And the west border was the coastline of the great sea. This is the country of the children. This is the boundary of the children of Judah, all around, according to their families. Now Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he gave a share among the children of Judah, according to the commandment of the Lord, to Joshua, namely, Kirjath Arba, which is Hebron. Arba was the father of Anak. Caleb drove out 3 sons of Anak from there: Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai, the children of Anak. Then he went up from there to the inhabitants of Debir. Formerly, the name of Debir was Kirjath Sepher. And Caleb said, "He who attacks Kirjath Sepher and takes it, to him I will give Achsah, my daughter, as wife." So Othniel, the son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, took it, and he gave him Achsah, his daughter, as wife. And now it was so, when she came to him, that she persuaded him to ask her father for a field. So she dismounted from her donkey, and Caleb said to her, "What do you wish?" And she answered, "Give me a blessing. Since you have given me land in the south, give me also springs of water." So he gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Judah, according to their families. The cities at the limits of the tribe of the children of Judah, toward the border of Edom in the south, were Kabzeel, Eder, Jagur, Kainah, Dimonah, Adadah, Kedesh, Hazor, Ithnan, Ziph, Telem, Baaloth, Hazor, Hadatah, Kerioth, Hezron, which is Hazor, Imam, Shema, Mulada, Hazar-Gada, Heshmon, Beth-Pelet, Hazer Shul, Beersheba, Bizjolja, Bela, Ijim, Ezim, Eltolad, Chesel, Hormah, Ziklag, Dama, Sansana, Leboth, Shilhim, Ain, and Rimmon. All the cities were 29 with their villages. And the lowland, Eshtaol, Zorah, Ashna, Zenoah, Enganan, Tappa, Enam, Jarmuth, Adullam, Soko, Azekah, Shiraim, Aditham, Gederah, and Gederothaim, 14 cities with their villages. Zenan, Hadashah, Migdal Gad, Delian, Mizpah, Joktheel, Lachish, Bozkath, Eglon, Kabon, Lamas, Kithlish, Jiderath, Beth Dagon, Nama, and Makkedah, 16 cities with their villages. Libnah, Ether, Ashan, Jiphthah, Ashna, Nezib, Kiliah, Akzib, and Mareshah, 9 cities with their villages. Ekron with its town and villages. From Ekron to the sea, all that lay near Ashdod with all their villages. Ashdod with its towns and villages. Gaza with its towns and villages, as far as the brook of Egypt, and the great sea with its coastline. And the mountain country, Shamer, Jader, Sokah, Dana, Kirjath Sana, which is Deber, Anab, Ishtamal, Anam, Goshen, Holon, and Gilo, 11 cities with their villages. Arab, Duma, Eshin, Janam, Beth, Tapo, Africa, Humta, Kirjath Arab, which is Hebron, and Zior, 9 cities with their villages. Maon, Carmel, Ziph, Judah, Jezreel, Jokdeam, Zanoah, Cain, Gibeah, and Timnah, 10 cities with their villages. Halhul, Bethzur, Geder, Merath, Bethanoth, and Eltikon, 6 cities with their villages. Kirjath Baal, which is Kirjath Jearim, and Reba, 2 cities with their villages. In the wilderness, Beth Araba, Midden, Sikaka, Nibshan, the city of salt, and Engedi, 6 cities with their villages. As for the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Judah could not drive them out, but the Jebusites dwell with the children of Judah at Jerusalem to this day. Wow. Lots of difficult names to pronounce. Okay, still no questions. Joshua 16. The lot fell to the children of Joseph from the Jordan by Jericho to the waters of Jericho on the east, to the wilderness that goes up from Jericho, through the mountains to Bethel, then went out from Bethel to Luz, passed along the border to the Archites at Ataroth, and went down westward to the boundary of the Japhlethites, as far as the boundary of Lower Beth Horon to Gezer, and it ended at the sea. So the children of Joseph, Manessah and Ephraim, took their inheritance. The border of the children of Ephraim, according to their families, was thus. The border of their inheritance on the east side was Adaroth, Adar, as far as Upper Beth Horon, and the border went out toward the sea on the north side of Migmetheth, Migmetheth. Then the border went around eastward to Tanath Shiloh and passed by it on the east side of Genoha. Then it went down from Genoha to Adaroth and Naarah, reached to Jericho, and came out to the Jordan. The border went out from Tapau, westward to the brook Cana, and ended at the sea. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Ephraim according to their families. The separate cities of the children of Ephraim were among the inheritance of the children of Manasseh, all the cities with their villages. And they did not drive out the Canaanites who dwelt in Gezer, but the Canaanites dwell among the Ephraimites to this day and have become forced laborers. Joshua 17. There was also a lot for the tribe of Manasseh, for he was the firstborn of Joseph, namely for Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh, the father of Gilead, because he was a man of war. Therefore he was given Gilead and Bashan. And there was a lot for the rest of the children of Manasseh, according to their families, for the children of Abiezer, the children of Helek, the children of Asriel, the children of Shechem, the children of Hefer, the children of Shemida. These were the male children of Manasseh, the sons of Joseph, according to their families. But Zelophehad, the son of Hephner, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, had no sons, but only daughters. And these are the names of his daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. And they came near before Eleazar the priest, before Joshua the son of Nun, and before the rulers, saying, The Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our brothers. Therefore, according to the commandment of the Lord, he gave them an inheritance among their father's brothers. 10 shares fell to Manasseh, besides the land of Gilead and Bashan, which were on the other side of Jordan, because the daughters of Manasseh received an inheritance among his sons, and the rest of Manasseh's sons had land in Gilead. The territory of Manasseh was from Asher to Michmethath, that lies east of Shechem, and the border went along south to the inhabitants of Tapau. And Manasseh had the land of Tapau, but Tapau on the border of Manasseh belonged to the children of Ephraim. And the border descended to the brook Cana, southward to the brook. These cities of Ephraim are among the cities of Manasseh. The border of Manasseh was on the north side of the brook, and it ended at the sea. Southward it was Ephraim's, northward it was Manasseh's, and the sea was its border. Manasseh's territory was adjoining Asher on the north and Issachar on the east. And in Issachar and in Asher, Manasseh had Bethshean and its towns, Ibleam, its towns, the inhabitants of Dor, its towns, the inhabitants of Endor, and its towns, the inhabitants of Taanach, and its towns, the inhabitants of Megiddo, and its towns, 3 hilly regions. Yet the children of Manasseh could not drive out the inhabitants of those cities. But the Canaanites were determined to dwell in that land. And it happened when the children of Israel grew strong that they put the Canaanites to forced labor, but did not utterly drive them out. Then the children of Joseph spoke to Joshua, saying, Why have you given us only one lot and one share to inherit it, since we are a great people, inasmuch as the Lord has blessed us until now? So Joshua answered them, If you are a great people, then go up to the forest country and clear a place for yourselves there in the land of Perizzites and the giants, since the mountains of Ephraim are too confined for you. But the children of Joseph said, The mountain country is not enough for us, And all the Canaanites who dwell in the land of the valley have chariots of iron, both those who are of Beth-shan and its towns, and those who are of the valley of Jezreel. And Joshua spoke to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim, to Manessah, saying, You are a great people, and you have great power. You shall not have only one lot, but the mountain country shall be yours. Although it is wooded, you shall cut it down, and its farthest extent shall be yours. For you shall drive out the Canaanites, though they have iron chariots, and are strong. Okay, one question. List the first 5 tribes that received their allotted land. So you'd have to go back to actually 13, 15. So Reuben and Gad and half the tribe of Manessah on the other east of the Jordan. So that's 2.5. Then the next side was Judah. Cities of Judah. Ephraim and Manessah. So Ephraim, Manessah, Reuben, Gad, Manesseh, Judah, Ephraim. So you had to go back through a few chapters to find them all. All right, that's enough today. It's a lot of words, especially hard to pronounce words. But did you notice he didn't always drive out the enemy that God had told him to drive them out? I wonder what will happen. All right, see you next time.